Hello, my name is Blair. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Sensory Awareness series. Today is day 3, which means we are going to be talking about a really important concept in the world of neurodiversity, and that concept is called stimming. So stimming is short for self-stimulation. No, not like that. It is most commonly associated with autism and developmental disabilities, and it refers to a repetitive sensory behavior. Some stims can be almost unnoticeable, like tapping a pen, picking your nails, or twirling your hair. Some stims are a lot more noticeable, like rocking, spinning, or flapping your hands like this. This actually works really well for me right now because it's kind of hot in my room. Sometimes stims can be verbal, like repeating the same phrase over and over again, which is called echolalia. Certain stims can actually be harmful or damaging to the person, and just know that I'm not talking about those right now. I had a lot to say about that particular issue, so I will actually be making a separate video on it. Just know that right now I'm only referring to benign sensory behaviors, those ones that are not harmful or damaging to the person involved, or anybody else. So stimming is commonly understood as the body's attempt to self-regulate by countering negative sensory input that can't be controlled with positive sensory input that can be controlled. So for instance, if you really don't like fluorescent lights, if they're very triggering to your sensory reaction, but you do really enjoy the feeling of rocking back and forth, then you might engage in that behavior as a way of bringing yourself back into balance so that you don't get overwhelmed by the demands of the environment. It is really important for neurodiverse people to be able to do this. Stimming can be connected to any of the senses. An example of a visual stim would be staring at a moving object, like one of these bad boys. An auditory stim would be listening to a song over and over again, or even engaging in echolalia. Echolalia, echolalia, echolalia. It's so fun to say! Eating specific foods can be a stim for both taste and smell. Seeking out preferred textures is an example of tactile stimming. And those really big full body activities like spinning and jumping can be a source of much needed sensory input for your vestibular or proprioceptive senses. This is why things like weighted blankets and compression clothing are so popular with neurodiverse people. Sometimes stimming can be a direct response to environmental stress, and other times it's just a habit. Kind of like an idle animation in a video game. For example, right now I'm sitting crisscross applesauce on my floor, and usually when I'm sitting like this, I'm kind of just rocking back and forth a little. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily distressed, it's just a different way that I engage with my sensory environment. So why is this important to talk about? Neurodiverse people are often judged for or prevented from stimming. I have gotten a range of reactions to my stimming throughout my lifetime, from snide comments and weird looks, all the way up to outright public humiliation, and that's not an exaggeration. It's important for neurotypical people to know about stimming because it provides perspective for what may seem like an odd or rude behavior. So, story time. I have a specific memory of the first day of driver's ed. I was sitting there with my notebook open, ready to take notes, because I am the type of person who would take notes in driver's ed, and I wrote down a few things and then started to doodle in the margins. Drawing is one of my stims. The instructor noticed that I was drawing, stopped the entire class, and then proceeded to tell me that he didn't allow drawing in his class and that I was being extremely disrespectful. In that moment, there was no consideration as to why I was doing what I was doing. He immediately judged me based on his neurotypical idea of what paying attention looks like. For a neurotypical person, something like drawing and not making eye contact might indicate that they aren't paying attention, that they're distracted, but for me, it was actually a really important adaptation that I had developed to help myself focus. So that driver's ed class ended up being completely useless for me because I wasn't allowed to use the strategies that I had come up with for helping myself deal with environmental demands. I mean, who among us can really say that driver's ed was useful for them? But I just remember that because he was so adamant that I was being disrespectful, and I was like, no, I'm trying to be respectful. It just looks different than you thought it would. When people with SPD are continually judged, punished, or maybe even bullied for stimming, we have to mask or hide our SPD traits, hide our stimming, and force ourselves to appear as normal as possible. This takes a lot of energy, and it can take up important space in our brain that we need to devote to other things, like learning how to drive. It's okay, I've only been in one car accident. And that brings us to the end of day 3. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new. Remember to do something sensational today, and hopefully I will see you back tomorrow. Bye!